the table of the House a copy of the report of the Joint Select Committee appointed to review the Insolvency Act of 2014, which was laid on the table of the Senate on the 31st day of January 2025, be approved.
Thank you very much. Notices of motions given orally.
Mr. President, I beg to give notice that at the next meeting of the Senate, I will move the following motion, which I just read, but for the record, I'll repeat it, that the report of the Joint Select Committee to consider and report on the Insolvency Act 2024, which was laid on the table of the Senate on the 31st day of January 2025, be approved.
Thank you very much, Minister Hill. Questions and answers to questions. Senator Morris, Dr. Morris.
Yes, Mr. President. I had asked some questions to the Honorable Minister of Government Business, and she had indicated that, well, it's about the NHT, National Housing Trust, and she had indicated that I would have received those responses.
It just came out. There's a new website where any Florida resident, as long as you live within a zip code in the state, you can apply to have your auto insurance rates reduced significantly. All you have to do to qualify is to have 0 DUIs in the last 5 years. If that's you, we put a link below. Just enter your Florida zip code and you'll find out instantly that you qualify to have your auto insurance rates reduced by up to 80%. It costs absolutely nothing to claim this, so claim it now while it still lasts.
Students with ADHD save 10 hours studying with this.
The minister sent me the responses so that when she's here and tabling the answers, I can just do the follow-up questions.
Certainly, I'll undertake to do that. I'll undertake to do that.
All right, thank you, Mr. President.
Motions that may be made at the commencement of public business requiring notice. Motions relating to the sitting of the Senate. Motions for leave to introduce bills. The presentation of bills without the leave of the Senate first obtained. Public business. Minister.
Today, it is our intention to continue and conclude the State of the Nation debate and contributions from the following members: Senator Abico Fitz-Henley and Senator Calvin Gale, who the latter will be closing the debate, Mr. President.
Senator Bonte.
Thank you. Mr. President, on the 13th of January, the leader of government business communicated to me that when Senator Calvin Gale would be closing today, like when he opened, it was the convention that only the person opening and closing would speak. And therefore, we had only 2 more days, 2 more sittings of the Senate, which would have been last Friday and the Friday before, at which our opposition senators could speak. Late yesterday, we get a notice, an updated notice, that Senator Fitzhenley will be speaking as well today. Now, that is not only unfair to our members who may have wished to speak because they had little time to prepare. And unlike many members of that side, we don't get an executive salary. We don't get staff so that we can prepare all of this overnight. And, you know, it really is a very, you know, it really breaks the trust that should exist between a leader of government business and a leader of opposition business in arranging some of the administrative matters of the Senate. And I'm very disappointed that if there was to be a change, that wasn't communicated in good time to give our senators who had not yet participated advance notice that there would be an opportunity for them to participate today. And so I am reserving at least the opportunity if someone wants to get up on their feet on our side and speak before the closing of the debate, that be allowed.
You know, Senator Bunting, and it's an observation that I make to both sides. This debate started, if my memory serves me correctly, in when? June of 2024? Eh? When it started? Eh? No, I'm just making an observation. When it started? November. Anyway, the question is that the State of the Nation debate be continued this morning. Those in favor? Against? Senator Abka Fitzhenley. Senator Fitzhenley.
Thank you, sir. I begin by thanking the great architect of the universe, Almighty God, for exercising his awesome powers in such a way that has made available to us grace, guidance, and sustenance. I acknowledge as well my family for allowing me to give of myself to the political arena, and my entire staff who support my work daily. The confidence, sir, invested in me by Dr. the Most Honorable Andrew Holness to serve as a lawmaker in the executive via his office and the office of the Prime Minister is something I never ever take for granted, because at the core of what we do is a recognition that being appointed to office presents an opportunity to take actions which enumerate to the best interest of the people of Jamaica land we love. President, I thank you, sir, for your expert and fair superintendence of the affairs of this chamber.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Notwithstanding that about 4 of my 5 points of orders have not been upheld. I still find your superintendence of the chamber fair, sir. And I extend greetings as well to all members of the upper house, including our Senate leader, the Honorable Kamina Johnson-Smith, whose steady and effective leadership of the chamber is very much appreciated. I wish to indicate as well appreciation for the daily efforts of the parliamentary staff, led by Ms. Colleen Lowe, very much recognized and appreciated. You know, Mr. President, the late, great Robert Nesta Marley, I believe, in 1977, immortalized in song a phrase, "So much things to say, so much things to say. That's the position I find myself in this morning. And on my mind has been the transformation of the Jamaican society in terms of values and attitudes of young people, in particular in this country. And I have always been of the view that the church and captains of popular industry, including our entertainers, have an important part to play in instilling positive values in society, including the younger cohort. In that vein, I take note of the debate in the public domain currently concerning entertainer spies participating in schools and seeking to transfer a positive message. I believe a balancing act can be found, and all stakeholders, whether the church or the captains of popular culture, can have a powerful and influential part to play in the future transformation of Jamaican society. I see myself as a churchman, sir, believe it or not. And also, I'm a supporter of the music. And I make the comments in that context. I make the comments in that context. But I believe if we are actually honest with ourselves, our entertainers, our artists, have a far greater chance of positively reaching the minds of the younger cohort. And certainly they should be facilitated if, in fact, the messaging is positive. It is in that context, sir, that I welcome word that our Education Minister, Dr. the Honorable Dana Morris Dixon, facilitated by the Honorable Oliver Grange, our Culture Minister, had a meeting with the spies towards discussing the way forward. I'm optimistic that a positive understanding may be arrived at. But that said, I don't intend to focus on that issue much today, because I will be discussing today 4 topics that, when the various studies are done, they occupy the minds and the concerns of the Jamaican people. You have the matter of cost of living, housing, corruption, and national security. I'll be speaking to those today. But before I do so, I have the honor of addressing the 2024-2025 State of the Nation debate at an important juncture for the future of our country. This address, sir, comes at a time when the administration is moving to pursue the goal of making Jamaica into a republic. I fully support this move. And I'm aware that to be successful, this move has to have the support of the opposition. I wish to point out that I strongly believe reformation of Jamaica's constitutional arrangement is best pursued on a phased basis. And I hear the pejorative word piecemeal being tossed about. I believe the issues are so weighty, sir, that there's a greater chance of success when we pursue this endeavor on a phased basis. There is nothing pejorative or unprincipled about a phased approach to constitutional reform. Therefore, I find it very unfortunate the stance of the opposition not to support passage of the bill to depose of the UK-based monarchy as head of state if the weighty issue of Jamaica's final court is not settled at the same time. I believe that stance is unproductive and unfortunate. As a matter of fact, I believe equally puerile is the unfortunate move of the opposition to, I hear the opposition leader describing it as pause their participation in the Joint Select Committee of the CRC. I find it very, very unfortunate. There's a view among some in Jamaica that Jamaicans don't care about the issue of our head of state, whether it's a Jamaican or a UK national. I tend to disagree. I believe there are significant cohorts of the population which do care about our identity as a country. And therefore, in this a year of crucial decision-making, I encourage the people of Jamaica to take note of the stance taken by the opposition leader, an individual who, not too long ago, said he had to pray and agonize about whether he wanted to give up his own personal allegiance to the UK, that his stance is further delaying the national goal, the process of having a Jamaican as head of state. I find it quite offensive to the sensibilities of us Jamaicans that an individual who not too long ago said he had to pray and agonize about whether he wanted to give up his own personal allegiance to His Majesty King Charles, that his stance is delaying pursuit and achievement of this important national goal, which is crucial to our identity as a people. I therefore urge the people of Jamaica, those who care about defining our national identity as a people, to ensure that the opposition leader and the institution that he leads face a political consequence for their important stance, for their unfortunate stance, which has delayed a process which I believe is very crucial to our identity as a people. You would never be able to tell, sir, based on the doom and gloom presentation of the opposition Senate leader last week, but we addressed the State of the Nation debate at a time when business and consumer confidence are on the increase. And the rate of poverty, which was at approximately 21% when the administration of Prime Minister Andrew Holness came to office, has declined or is projected to decline to near 12% when the next evaluation is published. Much to be done, sir, but it is clear that the intentional policies of the current administration is working towards easing the burden on the poor and dispossessed. This address also comes at a time when many countries across the globe are grappling with spiraling inflation, which touch and concern the issue of cost of living. But the administration has been able to keep the inflation rate at between 4% and 6%. There's no doubt, sir, that as far as inflation is concerned, Jamaica under this administration is moving in the right direction. This State of the Nation address also comes at a time when many of our prominent regional partners who have more natural resources than us are facing double-digit increases in murders and violent crime for 2024. But again, thankfully, due to the intentional and deliberate policies of the government of Prime Minister Andrew Holness, coupled with the hard work of the men and women of the security forces, during the year 2024, murders declined by approximately 19%, and violent crimes have decreased by 14%. Much work to be done, sir, concerning the fight against crime, but it is important to note that steady gains are being made. As we contemplate the state of the nation, another barometer we are to assess is the opportunities made available to people to provide for themselves. And this administration has been intentional in taking deliberate steps to improve the purchasing power of Jamaicans. And I readily accept there's much, much more to be done. But it must be acknowledged, it is no small feat that under this administration, unemployment is at a record low, well below 4%, coming from a high of 13.5% when the PNP administration was in office. Put simply, sir, more people have jobs. More people have the opportunity to put bread on their tables under the government of Andrew Holness than at any time in Jamaica's history. So, I said to my fellow Jamaicans, I know that there are many issues to be addressed, but I genuinely believe when we assess the key indicators which tell us how our society is doing, crime, inflation, employment levels, among others, there is no doubt that Jamaica is moving in the right direction, and it is important that this trend continues, because the trend continuing means that even if there's an individual or many individuals who have not benefited, that there's a greater chance, there's a greater likelihood of them benefiting if there's continuity in the complexion of, or the nature of the political directorate which has charge of the country. And this is so because you have an administration that has not only been able to keep the economy stable, but an administration that is fiercely committed to ensuring that as many people across Jamaica benefit from the gains of a stable economy. I wish to make a few quick comments on the matter of crime and violence and national security. You know, there are philosophers, for example, Émile Durkheim, a French philosopher, and Karl Marx, a German, who they differed in terms of what they posited, but they were agreed on the fact that deviance is a necessary part of society. I won't debate that much today. Suffice to say, the fact of the matter is, I think we can all agree that one life lost to violent crime is one too many. And certainly over 1,000 murders in a country as small, an island as small as Jamaica, small meaning geographically. Too many, way too many. I can certainly recall, sir, in 1997, under the administration of Percival Patterson, when murders for the first time breached the dreaded 1,000 mark in terms of persons murdered per calendar year. But that said, and that context laid, when gains are made, they must be fairly and honestly acknowledged. And it is in that context that I wish to commend the National Security Minister, Dr. Horace Chang, and the Police Commissioner, Dr. Kevin Blake, and the hard-working men and women of the JDF, and importantly, the Jamaica Constabulary Force, on the double-digit decline in murders and violent crime. I am confident, sir, given the intentional policies of the Prime Minister and Dr. Chang, and how particular they have been about making unprecedented investments in national security, in the area of border protection, building the intelligence capabilities of the security forces, upgrading the technology that the police have available, that Jamaica, no pun intended, has a good shot at a further significant decline in violent crimes this year. It is important that all stakeholders assist the police and the administration in securing or achieving this important objective, even as we do not shirk away from the fact that it is the administration of the day that is to take the lead in terms of making the nation safe and secure. That said, sir, concerning the crime fight, I have been disappointed with the comments in the public domain, in particular coming from the opposition, on the matter of violent crime. A suggestion has been made that the policymakers deserve no real credit for the decline in murders, and that the statistics which show a major decline might not be dependable or reliable. I believe that posture adopted by the opposition spokesman on national security is not appropriate. And I'm happy I have the opportunity to tell him to his face. I believe it's shameful and unbecoming. Imagine, sir, the method used to tabulate crime statistics over the years when murders increased from approximately 414 in 1989, 1990, and went to 1,670 odd in 2005. That method has not changed. It is the same method used when murders under the watch of the erstwhile Security Minister and former MP for Central Manchester cumulatively went up by 6%. It is the same method used now to tabulate the statistics, which show a decline in violent crime by 14% and 19% as far as murders is concerned.
You remember that?
So, to now question the process of tabulation, I believe is not only hypocritical, but it shows wanton disregard for the hard-working efforts of men and women of the Jamaica Constabulary Force. And you know, sir, the move by the opposition spokesman and his surrogates to call into question and discredit the decline and the statistics, I believe is of great embarrassment to the opposition when we consider that the comments have come from an opposition spokesman who, when he was security minister and murder spiraled, he appeared on the verge of weeping and he begged for divine intervention. And he said, despite the best efforts of the administration of which he was a part, he said, despite the best efforts of the administration of which he was a part, the gains were, he mumbled it, so I could barely hear. He said the gains were low and slow. That's what the then security minister said. So I said to the people of Jamaica, much more to be done. This administration, however, has begun to obtain positive outcomes in moving to create a safer society. And we should remember the past and reject efforts by the opposition to get us to go back to an era of weak leadership when they had the opportunity to lead on the fight against crime. They were weak and indecisive when the lives of Jamaicans were plundered. They sobbed and begged and sent an unfortunate message to criminal elements. We cannot afford to go back to such weak and jellyback leadership as far as the fight against crime and violence is concerned. Can't afford to go back, sir. Another thing I find unfortunate, sir, is the move by the opposition spokesman to discredit the efficacy of states of public emergency. The fact of the matter is that in the vast majority of divisions, they have been declared. There has been a decline in violent crime and murders. Quite frankly, when the opposition spokesman suggests that states of public emergency do not work, he's not speaking the truth. The data does not support that assertion. And it's not just about saturation policing. The SOE or the SOPEs, as some allude to them, present the opportunity to the security forces to take violent criminals outside of the space, and they increase the opportunity or the likelihood of members of the community cooperating that solid cases may be built. The suggestion by the opposition spokesman that states of public emergencies do not work is disingenuous and should not be believed. The opposition spokesman, sir, should understand that while he's entitled to his own opinion, he's not entitled to his own facts. And we will call out misinformation for what it is. Sir, if I should give the opposition spokesman some credit, I would credit him for being consistent. Because I recall when I was in media, And Senator Sinclair would recall a series of savage murders occurred in St. James, and gunmen were trading bullets in the town center. I had asked the then Security Minister about the possibility of a SOE, and he dismissed it. Suffice to say, this administration came to office and had the, can I say, the balls? Had the balls to put in place states of public emergency. And there were 200 fewer murders compared to a year when states of public emergency were not used. I should say we had the guts. We had the guts.
Sir, 1 minute, Senator Pitsenley. Senator Brown.
I believe the standing order requires us to use language that are not offensive.
Me, you tell that?
Yes, you, I am telling that.
Thank you.
And I believe the use of a word, a 5-letter word beginning with B, by the member, and having regard for the little angels you just welcomed to the chamber, was inappropriate, and maybe the member would wish to
Not
withdraw
repeat
that.
it. And not repeat it. Thank you. Senator, continue, please.
Thank you, sir. In this, a year of important decision-making, I invite the people of Jamaica to recognize that a fundamental difference between this administration and the opposition is that we are prepared to lawfully utilize all the tools in the box of crime fighting in order to achieve a highly important objective: to save Jamaican lives, to preserve the ultimate constitutional right of Jamaicans, the right to life. The final point I'll make on the matter of violent crime and murders included is that the statistics over the years paint an interesting picture. Let's go back as far as 1972, because to assess the state of the nation, sometimes you have to recall where you are coming from. When the Manley administration came to power, they inherited a year when 145 Jamaicans were killed in the former calendar year. When that administration left office, 889 Jamaicans murdered in their final year, a massive 449% increase. The current the JLP administration came to office, inherited a calendar year where 889 Jamaicans were killed, and left it at 414. Still too many, but a massive 58% reduction in murders. The Patterson administration came to power, 1989 to 2007. In their final year, 1,584 Jamaicans cut down, murdered. The Jamaica Labour Party administration came back to office, having inherited a rate of 1,584 in the previous calendar year, and left it at 1,130, a 29% decline. The member has exited the chamber, but enter Peter Bunting as Security Minister, inherited a year of 1,130 Jamaicans murdered, left it at 1,208 in 2015, a 6% increase. Now, I know some people do not like when you allude to statistics when murders are concerned, because the truth of the matter, sir, is that every life counts, and one person cut down to violent crime is one too many. However, the use of these statistics, the use of this data is not to discount that fact, but to make a powerful point that the data suggests that murders decline during a term of the Jamaica Labour Party administration, and when the PNP is in power, there is an increase in murders. As we assess the current state of the nation, I believe that's a very important fact for the people of Jamaica to consider. I wish to make a few comments on the matter of housing in Jamaica. The opposition spokesman on housing spoke about the portfolio, and he suggested that the current administration has been underperforming in the area of housing compared to what transpired when the former administration was in office. So again, I wish to interrogate the data. I won't proffer opinion. I will put forward the data. Between 2016, sir, and 2024, that's the consecutive terms of the current administration, the National Housing Trust started building 27,901 housing solutions. During that phase, 20,805 were completed. That's between 2016 and 2024. Over 62,900 mortgages were created during that phase. In fact, I'm advised, sir, that's an unprecedented number of houses built during consecutive terms of any administration in Jamaica. But let us break it down a bit further. Between 2012 and 2016, the last term of the PNP administration, well under 12,400 housing solutions were built, about 46 fewer. But during the current term of the administration, between 2020 to the end of 2024, the National Housing Trust, which operates under the auspices of the Office of the Prime Minister, under the leadership of Dr. Holness, has completed the building of 14,136 housing solutions. The fact is, sir, during the current term, this administration, via the National Housing Trust, has built approximately 2,000 more housing solutions when compared to the last term of the PNP administration. So, when the opposition spokesman on housing suggested that this administration has been underperforming compared to what came before, he's not speaking the truth. In fact, misled the Parliament of Jamaica, and the data shows that what he intimated to the Parliament is false. But, sir, I believe it's important to correct the record of the Parliament, even as we acknowledge that there is much, much more to be done. We aspire to build more houses for the people of Jamaica, and indeed, we will get it done. And I believe the issue of housing should ideally be addressed outside the realm of partisan political sparring, which unfortunately the opposition introduced to the debate. The opposition spokesman's move as well to disparage the new social housing program, which has delivered over 280 houses and benefited almost 1,000 Jamaicans who were in dire need, I find unbecoming and unfortunate. I truly believe, sir, and I've been around the country, and I see the joy, not just among the people who are directly benefiting from the social housing, but the entire community is happy for the individuals. I truly believe that this new social housing program will be remembered by Jamaicans as one of the most impactful programs put in place by our visionary Prime Minister, who did not benefit from any sweetheart deals, sir. Came from humble beginnings, lived in a board house, and is committed to ensuring that as many Jamaicans as possible have the opportunity to enhance their standard of living. On the matter of housing, I must add, though, that I am encouraged by word from the Prime Minister that the administration is focused on making available more houses, in particular to what's referred to as middle or low-income Jamaicans. The quicker we get this done, the better. We acknowledge that more needs to be done in that regard. Before I segue from the issue of housing, I wish to comment on the matter of Operation Pride, because the opposition spokesman on housing again introduced it into the debate, and he suggested that Operation Pride was a good program, a program which was conceptualized under the Patterson administration. He suggested that the program enumerated to the benefit of the people of Jamaica. Well, sir, I have been watching current affairs for many years, more than 2 decades. And that submission to the Parliament by the opposition spokesman I find to be among the most audacious piece of revisionist history that I've heard uttered in the Parliament. But let me remind Jamaicans who might have not been following current affairs what transpired when the then opposition had the opportunity to supply housing to Jamaicans in need. The Operation Pride program, was mired in corruption. At least 6 people, including a well-known PNP activist. And to borrow a word Senator Bunting used last week, several PNP cronies were charged with 87 counts of conspiracy to defraud. They were accused under Operation Pride of pilfering, yes, stealing approximately 451 million of taxpayers' monies and putting into the pockets of their PNP cronies.
The time for the speaker has expired.
The senator's time for speaking having expired, I'm asking that this Senate extend his time sufficient to complete his post-truth exposition.
Question is for the time to be extended so that the speaker may conclude his presentation. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. Continue.
I understand this comfort. I understand, but, you know, I know the description of my submission so far, but there's a quote I'll read into the record soon that the member might find very interesting regarding his posture. But not yet. Not yet. I'll get there. Regarding Operation Pride, sir, the Jamaica Gleaner recalls it well. Operation Pride, the newspaper says, was launched by the then Patterson administration as a scheme to provide low and middle income housing solutions for Jamaicans. But questions about the expenditure led to the resignation of the then Housing Minister, Dr. Carl Blythe, and the subsequent action was taken against some PNP activists. An analysis of all the Operation Pride projects disclosed that over $2 billion of taxpayers' monies were squandered. End of quote. Over $2 billion, sir, intended to build houses for Jamaicans, were squandered and pilfered under the administration of the PNP. That, sir, is the legacy of the PNP when it comes on to housing in Jamaica. And no effort by the opposition spokesman to adjust the spectacles of history will hide that fact. The fact of the matter is that this administration, the administration of Prime Minister Andrew Holness, is strong on this issue, that the People's Housing Program should not be mired in corruption. Not a dollar of the people's housing money must be squandered to corruption or used to buffer the pockets of criminal elements. The opposition spokesman, during his contribution to the debate, sir, commented on the matter of a senior official of the UDC who has given yeoman service to this country. And he called for him to step aside as the chairman of the UDC, following what building experts describe as minor variations from a permit regarding a property in Beverly Hills. So anybody who knows anything about development and housing will indicate to you that invariably there are variations in processes when these developments are pursued. Well, variations in the permit, I should say, when these developments are pursued, and there are processes to bring this to heel. But I was disappointed to hear absolute silence from the opposition spokesman on housing, Floyd Morris, when it was disclosed that a company owned by a member of his political party, a councillor, put up a building despite having absolutely no permit, and that building had approximately 4 stories, despite the application saying they had intended to build only 2. The silence, Senator Brown, the silence of the opposition spokesman on housing on this matter, and he's not in the chamber because I had intended to tell him to his face. But his silence on that matter compared to his posture concerning the minor variation brings into question his credibility. Indeed, I believe his credibility to speak on matters of housing has been damaged by ostensible hypocrisy and inconsistency. And it is indeed he who should consider his future as a spokesman on that portfolio area. I should make a few comments on the matter of the Jamaican economy. Because again, when we listen to the opposition spokesman on security, Adam Burt, on matters concerning the Jamaican economy and by how much is expanding, people who aren't following the figures, the data, may come away with the impression that his side of the political fence has a stellar track record of causing the Jamaican economy to expand. And I won't go back as far as the 1990s, but I had a glance at the economic data, 2012 to 2015. 2012, under the former administration, negative 0.6% expansion. 2013, 0.5%. 2014, 0.7%. 2015, 0.9%. An average of just under just over 0.29% when the PNP administration had a chance to manage the economic affairs of Jamaica. Let's compare that to 2016. Expansion of 1.4%, 2017, 1%, 2018, 1.9%, 2019, 0.9%, an average expansion of 1.4% when the Jamaica Labour Party administration came to office. There was a year of COVID-19, which would be unfair to include in the data, negative 9.9% expansion, where the economy rebounded so impressively that by the year 2021, there was a 4.6% expansion. In 2022, 5.2%. The following year, 2.2%. And 2024, just under 1.4%. The administration of Prime Minister Holness has a more credible track record of causing the Jamaican economy to expand compared to anything the PNP has offered in the past. And no amount of spinning or misinterpretation of data will cause this truth not to be spoken into the record.
Be careful what you ask for.
I wish to make a few comments on the matter of the economy, which is stable. NIR is doing well. Inflation under control. Tax revenue is performing satisfactorily. And the administration had achieved over 10 consecutive quarters of positive expansion in the Jamaican economy. The submissions by Senator Bunting sought to minimize the impact of COVID-19 and weather events, including Hurricane Beryl. But look, I am confident that the core macroeconomic indicators are trending in the right direction, that key industries, including agriculture, are bouncing back. Tourism continues to do well, and there are new and emerging industries. I'm confident that not too long from now, the Jamaican economy will no doubt return to a path of positive expansion. And I say to I say to all stakeholders, they can be confident this will transpire not too long from now. And when we contemplate the future trajectory of the Jamaican economy and ponder upon the current state of the nation, it's important to recall what we should not go back to.
Yes, very important. Yes.
As a young legislator who carefully took note of the FinSAC era of the 1990s and the 2000s and the impact it had on this country, setting our country back by decades, I'm compelled to indicate that we can't go back to that era of iniquitous policies that devastated the savings of many Jamaicans.
Suicide.
The wicked high interest rate policies of the former PNP administration. Thousands upon thousands of Jamaicans were hurt. Their lives were shattered, but the policies enumerated to the benefit of a few who were connected to the PNP, including a company owned by Peter Bunting and Mark Golding, which was investigated by an anti-corruption agency, the Office of the Contractor General, in what was known as the infamous Sweetheart Deal probe, and found to have benefited from millions of dollars of contracts involving public funds via processes which the Office of the Contractor General referred to as irregular and improper, and achieved via a potential corruption-enabling mechanism intended to benefit political cronies.
What were the words again?
The Office of the Contractor General said the company owned by Peter Bunting and Mark Golding benefited from US multi-million-dollar contracts involving public funds. And the OCG, the then anti-corruption agency, described the deals as irregular and highly improper and achieved via potential corruption-enabling mechanism intended to benefit political cronies. My point is simple. It is not complicated. As we contemplate the current state of the nation, sir, it would not be good to entrust the future direction of Jamaica in the hands of individuals who benefited from these iniquitous policies that hurt the lives of thousands upon thousands of Jamaicans. And I am not the only one who is of the view that the country should not be entrusted to the leadership of the current opposition. Because I'm going to read a quotation into the record, sir. I'm going to drink some water before I read this one. Yeah, man. I'm going to button my jacket as well. I am not the only one who is of this view that the country should not be entrusted into the hands of the current makeup of the leadership of the opposition. As supporting evidence, I read this quotation into the record. Quote, "You cannot dispose of your integrity. Integrity is something you have whether you are being observed or not." He launched his campaign on a platform of integrity, and he has abandoned it. He has abandoned it for political expediency. That disqualifies him from leading the party, and it disqualifies him from leading this great country. End of quote. Those, sir, are the words of Opposition Senator Donna Scott Motley. Words uttered a few years ago concerning the individual who she happens to sit beside, the opposition Senate leader, when he was mounting a campaign to lead the PNP. Yes, this disqualifies him from leading the party. and disqualifies him from leading this great country. I cannot believe I'm saying this, but I concur with the words uttered then by Senator Scott Bartley. There's a saying in Jamaica, sir, if a sea creature goes to the bottom of the ocean and tells you say deep, you better believe him. I put it to you, sir. I put it to you, sir. Even by the submissions of their very own, the current leadership of the opposition is not qualified to lead Jamaica. And sometimes younger folks listen to us speaking in the parliament. Sometimes younger folks, sir, listen to us speaking and say, boy, I wonder if Fitzhenry is making a big deal about what transpired before and cautioning that we can't afford to go back to that era of governance. A former PNP cabinet minister described the FinSAC era as the greatest transfer of resources from the poor to those who are well off since slavery was abolished. Wow. Well, I will go one better in assisting Jamaicans to understand the kind of leadership that is on offer from the opposition and what transpired then and what we can't go back to. I will read into the record now a quote by a current member of the PNP shadow cabinet who lamented that era of PNP governance by saying, quote, like the majority of Jamaicans, I am tired of an administration that has grown tired. I'm tired of the murder rate. I am tired of corruption. I'm tired of unemployment and nepotism. That, sir, is how a newspaper publication quoted now opposition Senator Lambert Brown as describing the former PNP administration. The title of the article said, Brown comes out swinging against the PNP. The state of the nation, sir, is such that the opposition has not shown that it has grown from that era, which Senator Brown rightly described as characterized by corruption, high murder rate, and nepotism. And they have shown that they don't have a grasp of how to operate an economy in a way that enumerates the benefit of Jamaicans. Even by the words of their own, sir, the current opposition cannot be trusted with governing Jamaica. Yeah. Even by their own words. I don't have much further to go, sir, but before I call time on my contribution, I must comment on the matter of corruption. I want to make some quick comments, Senator Brown, on the matter of corruption. Yes. Corruption is a matter the world over that does not identify by a unique political color. Both from a moral standpoint and a viewpoint of a country's economic well-being, it is important that the scourge be addressed and addressed strongly. I believe we can all agree on this fact. That's why this administration has moved to pass the MOCA Act and the Integrity Commission law. And we have given massive allocations on a yearly basis to support the funding of these agencies. There have been varying views concerning the efficacy of the Integrity Commission, which I won't go into today, including comments by the current opposition when it accused the Commission of being selective and entering into documents it tables into the Parliament or causes to be tabled in the Parliament, material which is consistent with the picture it wants to paint and leaving out other material. It shouldn't be forgotten that the opposition leader, the current opposition leader, proffered that criticism of the Commission. So, let me just leave that for now. However, I am concerned, sir, about constant information surfacing that suggests malfeasance at municipal corporations across the country And I'm calling for deliberate efforts to be made to ensure the enhancement of checks and balances across these corporations, which have been in the news for the wrong reasons. We must ensure that we take another look at the systems which are supposed to ensure transparency and stop those who intend to pilfer public funds. The Manchester Municipal Corporation $400 million scandal comes to mind, where several were convicted. So too, the illegal building saga and the hush money scandal dogging the opposition. Word is abound as well that inquiries are being made about the use of $70 million by the current administration of the St. Mary Municipal Corporation. We have had allegations in the past of cronyism and nepotism at the Hanover Parish Council. And not too long ago, there was a Mocha raid into approximately $1 billion being fleeced from the corporation, which was led for many years, which is led and has been led for many years by Mayor Norman Scott. And instead of attempting to introduce some jocularity into the argument, I invite my opposition colleagues to contemplate that all these corporations are led by the PNP. Absolutely. I honestly believe, sir, that the opposition should take note of this fact and do some soul searching. I also urge the people of Jamaica to take note, because the question must be asked, sir. If we cannot trust the opposition with managing the affairs of the municipal corporations in a transparent manner and to deal honorably with public funds, how can we ever trust them with managing the affairs of central government? I believe as we contemplate the current state of the nation, sir, the answer is simple. They cannot be trusted. And on the matter of corruption, sir, I take note of a publication in the media where the General Secretary of the opposition party, the de facto CEO of the opposition party, was asked by a caretaker about why some PNP leaders in various divisions and constituencies got more funds compared to other PNP constituencies. And this is what the de facto CEO of the PNP said in response to questions about the use of KCC resources. The question was direct. I can tell you why that happened. That's because they, in a clear reference to the KCMC, put more money in the two divisions where we are going to have by-elections. So you're going to have a by-election in Chance Hall and Denham Town. So they put more money in the divisions that we're going to have the by-elections. Can you imagine that, sir? The General Secretary of the opposition party was asked about why the KCMC allocated more resources in cash to some caretakers and MPs as opposed to other caretaker and MPs from the opposition party. And as opposed to saying, no, the KCMC is not in that business of giving monies or cash to caretakers, the CEO of the opposition party, which aspires to lead Jamaica, said, I can tell you why that happened. That's because they put more money in divisions where we are going to have by-elections. Can you imagine that, sir? And we're told as well in the media of conversations between a former councillor who now serves as an administrative staffer to Kingston's mayor, where the admin staffer told the caretaker, come collect cash, and commented, note well, the public should not know about this. Wow. Why? Why? Now, Mr. President, you are a well-known exponent of the criminal law. In fact, I'd say you are among the leading exponents of the criminal law in Jamaica. And you would very well know, sir, that that sort of treatment of public funds is unlawful and corrupt. In fact, this scandal which has hit the PNP Secretariat and the leadership of the KSMC is not just corruption, sir. It is institutionalized, organized crime, which the entire Jamaica must condemn. Now, I'm heartened by word that a formal investigation is underway, but the General Secretary of the opposition party happens to be a member of an illustrious institution, which is very important to the good functioning of the democratic processes in Jamaica, the Electoral Commission of Jamaica, where he incidentally would serve as an ombudsman. I believe, sir, that it would be appropriate for Dr. Dayton Campbell to resign as a commissioner of the Electoral Commission of Jamaica, given the magnitude of this corruption scandal in which he's deeply mired. I believe it would be appropriate for him to, without further delay, tender his resignation as a commissioner of the Electoral Commission of Jamaica. And you know, sir, I see the KSMC leadership has put out a statement saying no public funds were expended, and the funds that were expended were not expended in a partisan manner. That statement is not worth the paper it is written on. And I'll tell you why. Even by the admission of the CEO of the PNP, the General Secretary, he indicated that the funds were used strategically when he was asked about KSMC resources, KSAMC cash. He indicated the funds were dispersed strategically, yes, in order to position ahead of the calling of a by-election. So the suggestion by His Worship the Mayor, Andrew Swaby, that there was no partisan disbursement of funds, of cash by the KSMC, I believe is untrue and is an insult to the intelligence of the people of Jamaica. I wish to comment, sir, on two more matters pretty quickly before I close, because I'm aware that there are sections of the Jamaican population which are searching for a difference in the posture and the policies of the current administration and the current opposition. It is likely to be a general election year, given that it is constitutionally due in September of this year. It is very likely. Senator Scott Martley, surely you know that the law, in the event of, surely as a lawyer, you know that in the event of natural disasters, there are provisions for delay, which we hope do not transpire. A responsible lawmaker would say it is likely. It is likely. So I put it to you, sir, that one key difference between the administration of Prime Minister Andrew Holness and the opposition is that we believe in putting money back into the pockets of Jamaicans and thereby increasing their purchasing power. We are confident that this is how you get the wheels of an economy turning. We believe that where possible, you cut taxation, and that is how you move towards easing the burdens on the people. You create opportunities for businesses to do well. On the other hand, we have a political party which forms the opposition. The members form the opposition, which has a track record of imposing billions of dollars of taxes on the people of Jamaica. In the last term, the PNP imposed $60 billion in taxes on the backs of the people of Jamaica. And again, when we highlight these things, the opposition spokesman has a way of saying, that's opposition spokesman security. Look how long ago that. Yes, look how long ago. 2012 to 2016, $60 billion in taxes imposed by the then PNP on the people of Jamaica. Well, I put it to you, sir. If you listen carefully to the utterances of the members of the shadow cabinet, it is clear that the PNP's philosophy of taxing Jamaicans has not changed under the leadership of Mark Golding. Not too long ago, the opposition spokesman on education suggested a special increase in GCT. Of course, that would dip into the salaries of Jamaicans, while the opposition spokesman on agriculture suggested an increase in taxes on all food imports, which again, it does not take a rocket scientist to know, drive up burdens on the people of Jamaica. I wish to place on the record of Parliament, sir, my opposition to this expression of intention by the PNP via their two prominent spokespersons to increase taxes on the people of Jamaica should they have the opportunity to do so. I have vowed during my political career to always take positions which are in defense of the interest of the poor and dispossessed. I wish to say to the opposition spokesman and the Mark Gold-led PNP, this idea of additional taxes on the backs of the people, forget it. The PNP during the last term imposed 60 billion in taxes on the people of Jamaica. And quite frankly, sir, this talk from the PNP about new taxes, this fixation with taxation has doubled my resolve to work hard to ensure that the PNP does not again get the chance to pursue policies which not only stifle the local business sector, but are tantamount to them again seeking to put them foot on the neck of poor people in Jamaica. I say to the opposition, we, the people of Jamaica, will not allow you to, via your fixation with taxation, send up food prices. Little did we know that when the opposition speaks about time comes, sir, they were saying time comes for new taxes, time comes for taxes on GCT, etc. It is clear, sir, that the current opposition does not understand that it takes creativity and people-centered thinking to get an economy moving in the right direction. This is a concept fully understood by the government of Prime Minister Andrew Holness. And as I close, the national dialogue on the current state of the nation is such that I feel compelled to make this point. The government of Prime Minister Andrew Holness is not just a macroeconomic stability administration. We put the interests of the people first, and we have demonstrated that we have the skill set to put in place policies which benefit the people of Jamaica. It is this administration that cut income tax twice. We have increased pensions. We have more than doubled the minimum wage from the abysmal 6,500 it was under the PNP. And we have made strides in taking scores of Jamaicans off contract work, giving them permanent employment with additional benefits, thereby improving their standard of living and job security. We have cut JUTC fares. The administration via the PATH program has increased support to the most vulnerable in society by over 30%. We have disbanded tuition fees for critical hard trust programs because we believe in giving people a chance to obtain a skill and step up in a life. This administration has made unprecedented investment in making communities safe and enhancing working conditions and service delivery in the medical care system. And we have not too long ago given back $20,000 to thousands of Jamaicans via the income tax rebate initiative. And I can confidently say, sir, there's much more to come, not because I have any intel about plans to be announced, but because I know that our Prime Minister and this administration he leads understands that at the core of our mandate is to continue to put in place a range of policies which make better the lives of the Jamaican people. Mr. President, I am a strong believer in the courage and determination and talents of the people of Jamaica. I keep alluding to it. A former prominent public official once said, "There's nothing wrong about Jamaica that cannot be fixed, about that which is good and right about our blessed island." He's right. And even as we confront the challenges of our time, I am confident that Jamaica, under the leadership of Prime Minister Andrew Michael Holness, will continue to make steady gains in the interests of the people of Jamaica, land we love. President, thank you, sir. God bless you. And may God continue to bless Jamaica, land we love.
Thank you, Senator Fitzhenley. Senator Scott Motley.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think it is well established both inside the chamber and outside that the State of the Nation is one of the most important speeches that a senator can make, and that usually a significant and considerable amount of time goes into the preparation. In fact, there are persons here who have published publications of their presentation. Mr. President, I have to speak extemporaneously today because it was my understanding that there was only one person who would speak today to close the debate. The person who opened it as Senator Cavan Gale. And because I am one of those persons who believes that when arrangements and agreements are arrived at between both sides, they will be honored, I did not make any preparation to speak. But I thank Senator Abka Fitzhenley for giving me the opportunity, firstly, to thank President Tom Tavares Vinson, to start by thanking him for encouragement, for support, for guidance of the meetings both here and in the Standing Orders Committee. I appreciate the balanced way in which he approaches matters, and I thank him for recognizing that it was both my duty and my obligation to rise today. I want to thank the staff of the Parliament who work so hard and under challenging times as they are not able to sometimes go to have lunch. And I know that is not good for their health, and it's a tremendous sacrifice. There are many colleagues on that side, on the government side, with whom I've developed relationships and for whom I have high regard and respect in the way that they discharge their duties as a senator. They will know who they are. And on this side, I will say, I have a family. I have developed close friendships with all of the persons here. I, in fact, have 2 grandchildren. And I'm looking forward to having a granddaughter, but I guess I have to wait on Senator Morris for that. I want to thank and acknowledge my husband, Elombe, the members of my law firm, in particular my sister. Well-deserved honor. Yes, my husband is now in Barbados considered Dr. the Most Honorable Elton Elombe Motley. Very proud of him. And certainly he has made a difference to my life.
That's why I'm sitting extra low now.
But I cannot end the thanks if I do not mention my housekeeper, Miss Millie Lawrence. She is the support for my household. And she even, as Sophia, Senator Fraser Binns knows, sometimes the person who selects my wardrobe and I don't know what to wear. She said, but what about that one there? And I said, oh, that's a good idea. But a lot of us know that we can't be here without our household help. And I just thank her so much. So I want to start my presentation with reference to the opening paragraph of A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. Had I had time, I would have chosen somebody from the Caribbean. But this, as I listened to Senator Fitzhenley, and as I've listened to the presentations by the government, it seems most timely, because it says, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times, it was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness, it was the epoch of belief, it was the epoch of incredulity, it was the season of light, it was the season of darkness, it was the spring of hope, it was the winter of despair. We had everything before us, we had nothing before us. We were all going direct to heaven. We were all going direct the other way. In short, the period was so far like the present period that some of its noisiest authorities insisted on its being received for good or for ill in the superlative degree of comparison only. And every time I hear the government speak about its achievements, I wonder if it hears what the people are saying and what the people are feeling. Maybe if it did, the polls would be going in a different direction from what it is now. Because here, the people of Jamaica are hearing the statistics. We have the lowest unemployment rate at 3.6%, but over 600,000 people have given up on getting a job. They have left the category where they can be counted as unemployed. You have a job fair, which is catered for 600 people, and 3,000 people turn up. You advertise for a job where you need 2 people, and you can select from 200,000. And you know the sad thing? Most of them are barely literate because we have failed them. Our educational standard is such that we have failed the country. And the majority of persons are barely literate. Then we go to the fact that poverty is at its lowest ever. How exciting, except the people don't feel that. Because we know that not only is it that people are feeling poor, but we have a whole new class of poor, retired civil servants, Senator Gale, who when they go to the supermarket, the few items that they can put in the trolley, when they reach the cashier, they have to put back some. People are hurting. People are feeling the pain. So when the words of prosperity are being sounded, prosperity everywhere, the question is, prosperity for whom? Who is feeling prosperous and who is doing well? Because the majority of the society is not. The report of the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization says that 55.1% of the Jamaica's population experienced moderate or severe food insecurity for 2021 to 2023. When we take away the window dressing, it means that there are people who are hungry. It means that 55.1% of our population hungry. There are many people in our country who do not have a decent meal in a day. And how does the FAO put it? They say food insecurity refers to restricted access to food for individuals or households due to limitations of money or other resource. But what surprised me was one of the key findings of the report, that in 2022, approximately 22.1% of the Jamaican population could not afford a healthy meal.
1 in 5.
Their diet was deficient.
1 in 5.
And the thing that caught my attention, Senator Brown, was that it was one of the lowest proportions in the Caribbean. So we are the government is patting itself on the shoulders as to how remarkable and great a job it is doing. But the people are suffering.
I'm telling a bell-name story. All is well.
You know, I looked at those children up in the gallery, and it struck me that the age of the person when the JLP first came to power the second time in 2016, they would have been 9 years old. They would reach voting age now. Those people who are going to vote in this upcoming election was 9 years old when the Jamaica Labour Party became the government. And how the Jamaica Labour Party intends to campaign is to go back to 1972. Senator Morris was born in 1997.
What? So young?
And all of these references that you make to 1972 show just how out of touch Senator Fitzhenley is with the population. They don't care. They don't care what happened in 1972. They care about now.
72, I couldn't even vote.
And it takes me to other matter of...
I campaigned, but I didn't vote. I had no vote.
It takes me to the matter of the constitutional reform process on which we have embarked. You know, it's an irony. I didn't expect that I was going to speak today. But something inside of me told me that the Constitutional Reform Committee chat that we established was no longer a place that I should be. And so I feel, in a sense, liberated. But what I did say to the members was that the first few months that we sat in that room were particularly uplifting to me. And I said it then many times, because I said nobody could walk in this room and tell us who supports the JLP and who supports the PNP. Because the whole point of it is that we were so united. We were so fixed and focused on the mandate which we had got to transform Jamaica that we didn't wear any clothing that had colors. And it was just, you know, I learned so many lessons from it, because what I learned is that when a people have differences and they sit down and they work it through, you can, in fact, arrive at a consensus. Senator Golden Campbell, we practice it all the time. It's called mediation. It's called mediation, and the minister, Delroy Chuck, has been promising in his from the last manifesto that he would bring a mediation bill. Well, we're still waiting to see. But you know, Minister Chuck makes a lot of promises. We just don't see them brought to fruition. But I want to tell you how I am now seeing this whole road to the Republic. I go back to the beginning. We first met in March 2023. We got the terms of reference, and we got a time frame. The time frame was that the bill would be tabled in Parliament May 2023. So we had March, April, by the end of May, there would be a bill here. I want to remind everybody that this sort of journey on which we have embarked, when the framers of the 1962 Independence Constitution considered it, they said the people had to be engaged. So it's not the parliamentarians who can sit down and table a constitutional amendment and debate it the same day and pass it the same day, as is the habit of the government of Jamaica. Tabling a constitutional amendment, say let's debate it, using their majority to pass it, come to the Senate, do the same thing, and take, and pass. No, this one involves the people of Jamaica. And the people of Jamaica in a referendum have to vote and say yes, they want to become a republic. For me, that meant we would firstly have to educate them, because some people have never seen a constitution. Highly educated people amongst us have never had the opportunity to see a constitution. Some of them think it's a row of black law books. And when you hold up this simple document and say, this is the Constitution of Jamaica, they are totally taken aback. So first of all, they don't know what is in it. So we have to discuss it with them. And we have to discuss the changes that we are going to make. How would we be able to sit down as a constitutional reform committee, deliberate amongst ourselves, and take it to the people and formulate a bill all within 3 months if we were serious about it? And I have concluded the government never intended to really take this journey far enough. That is my conclusion. Because first of all, they could never have expected that that process, engagement and consultation, could have taken place in 3 months. And nothing has happened since then to make me change my mind. When the Joint Select Committee on Constitutional Reform, the Road to the Republic, was convened, for the first time in the history of my sitting on Joint Select Committees, for the first time, and the records will show that I as a fully employed person, managing a small law firm, having other responsibilities, I am one of the best attending persons at a Joint Select Committee because I take my work seriously. So I know the structures. And when you say you are giving the public 2 weeks to comment on the bill, you can't possibly be serious. You can't be serious. Because you give 6 weeks on ordinary legislation. And now the most significant piece of legislation which has ever been passed in the history of this country. You give them 2 weeks to make a submission? It's not a runaway train, you know. It's not to satisfy somebody's ego. It's not because the government feels that they can use this situation to pillory the PNP by saying the PNP don't want to leave the monarchy. Those are not the considerations that should drive this process. The considerations which should drive this process is a genuine effort to unite the country about a matter. So you give 6 weeks for submissions on ordinary bills. You allow people who ask for an extension to get an extension. I don't know, but Senator Golding Campbell, I don't even think you have a date on a caveat on when submissions can be received for your committee. Pardon me? February 15th, and you started December. Not unreasonable. Not unreasonable. But you yourself would have looked at this Republic Bill. It is introducing fundamental changes. We are now going to elect or select a president. The method of doing so must be deeply scrutinized by the people. We are expanding the Senate, proposing that the president can appoint independent senators. The people have a duty to be able to look at it to say, is it supposed to be marginalizing the role of the opposition, or does it enhance the process? And everybody needs time to go through that. Because indeed, we say the Constitution is for the ordinary man in the street. But the way in which this government is approaching the issue of constitutional reform demonstrates to me that they have no intention of involving the people of Jamaica. None. So we will go to a referendum. That's the people. And if the people don't know what they're voting for, they have to vote no. If you don't understand the complexity, if you bother to turn up, you're going to turn up no. And Senator Hill, I had a dream. I realize sometimes that I dream too much, especially when it comes on to the type of Jamaica I want to see. Because my dream was that they... Even Siri wants to join in this conversation, so you must know how important it is. My dream was that this would be the one time that the country could get an opportunity to see the opposition and the government participating and trying to persuade the country that this is the right thing to do. So the sticking matter is a matter of the apex court. Which court should be our final court of appeal? The People's National Party had tabled a bill to enact this, to join the CCJ in 2015. The opposition, then led by Andrew Holness, was mortally against the CCJ, to the point where, in order to hang onto the Privy Council, he asked that his senators sign an undated letter of resignation. And the whole point of it is, there was no attempt really to say why you shouldn't join the CCJ or why you should remain with the Privy Council. It was just almost an intuitive, instinctive, kind of visceral response to having a court of appeal, which was a regional court of appeal. And good things came out of that, because every single opposition which was raised by the then opposition was taken into account, and it has made for the court to be stronger. So 20 years later, the Jamaica Labour Party still does not have a defined view. So you want to make it, you want a local court of appeal?
Just because Bruce is no longer the leader, because Bruce is no with CCJ.
You want a local court of appeal? Going to come to it.
Thank you.
I want to ask Minister Chuck how he felt when staff was demonstrating in St. Catherine, demonstrating against the infrastructure in the course at St. Catherine. I want to ask Minister Chuck how he felt when the staff at the Supreme Court pointed out that they were carrying home rats, termites and roaches in their handbags back to their home. I want to ask Minister Chuck, why is it that he said that he was unaware of these conditions when there had been protests and when the matters had been brought to his attention for a long time? I want to ask him if he knew that halfway tree sick bay was being used to assist the running of the court's office. The boast again, the tale of two cities. This is the largest amount that has ever been allocated. But it don't matter if you have the money if you're not spending it in the right places. There is almost no court in Jamaica which is not in need of upgrading. I have called for him to do an audit of the parish courts so that he can see what needs to be done. But nothing has happened. I have called for him to increase the monetary limit in the parish court so less people have to bring their matters to the Supreme Court, where the backlog is choking our country, whereas in the parish court, it has now become seamless for the matters to proceed. And I say, if you can't even get that right, how you will establish a final court of appeal here? But I'm always willing to listen. So let me hear the plans. Sit down and explain to me your time frame for doing that and what plans you have. You see, Mr. President, this mythical phase 2, we don't understand because there is lack of trust. You know, just like how we agreed that it's only Senator Gale who talked today, but Senator Fitzgerald talk, can't have trust because we don't know where the word going to be broken. So we are saying this is a matter which involves an important decision which can be dealt with in now. At the same time, as you leave the monarch, leave the court. So we don't have a situation where the monarch's court is determining constitutional issues here. So for example, as Trevor Monroe, the columnist, wrote, if the NITS case was now to be heard and to be appealed, it would be the monarch who would determine and rule on the actions of the legislature and the actions of the judiciary. If you want that, come and tell us. If that's what you want, if you never want to de-link, if you are going to be the last man standing at the Privy Council because you feel that that is the only place you can get justice, then tell us. Tell us why. You know, Senator Hill. You know, Senator Hill. I take my word very seriously. And so I do not intend, let me put it as nicely as I can, for anybody to draw my tongue and to make me breach any undertakings I've given. Suffice it to say that the leader of opposition did not name anybody to the Constitutional Reform Committee until we all met. The Jamaican Union of Churches hosted that meeting, and we had a full and frank discussion, very helpful discussion. And after that, the members were named to the committee. And there are other meetings we have had in which assurances have been given as to an approach. But I want to go. But at the yes. But not only that, to the Constitutional Reform Committee, the minister promised us that the Prime Minister would have come to Parliament and addressed it in October 2023, and it has never been done. So why you would expect us to trust that it will be done in phase 2? I am simply saying let us talk about it now. But this has reached a stage where it's a public cascade. So what was supposed to be a road to the Republic, done with the two of us holding hands, has now become totally embroiled in politics. It's not going to work. So you can go ahead and you can have your referendum. And you can say, you can go down in history again for the holding of a referendum. We've only had one before, 1961. But I want to make a point, because, one of the points that they keep on making, is that, we were only supposed to deal with consensus matters, and there's no consensus on the court. Well, I want to ask this question. In 2023, a poll was carried out, and 91.5% of the populace said they wanted impeachment. They wanted impeachment provisions. That was part of the 1995 Joint Select Committee recommendations on which the entire Republic Bill is supposed to be anchored according to the terms of reference. But there is no impeachment. That is after Prime Minister, I don't want to misquote anybody, I think Prime Minister Bruce Golding and Prime Minister Andrew Holness both said that within 100 days they would have an impeachment bill. And I do apologize if the time frame is inaccurate. But I do know that in 2011, Prime Minister Bruce Golding tabled the impeachment bill. I do know that. Oh, you mean Andrew never said it? Oh. And I do know that the leader of opposition, Mark Golding, tabled an impeachment bill as well. So if you ever wanted consensus and agreement by the public, impeachment is one. But it is not in the Republic Bill. It is not in the Republic Bill. There is no recommendation for it to be included in our new Constitution. And I will add further that indeed this government only has selective hearing because it never heard that from the public, and it has not heard that over 56% of the people want us to join the CCJ. How do they say they care? How do they say they really represent the people? As Senator Crawford would say, what can go so?
What can go so?
I will turn, as I do not have a prepared script, maybe you're all very lucky.
Senator Scott Martin, you don't have a prepared script, but you have breached your time.
All right, I want 5 more minutes.
Senator Hill, and I noticed that you're going on my head draw out Ransford and then make Ransford want to talk, you know, and not allowing it. Senator Hill?
Mr. President, it's my pleasure to ask that we extend, it's only her, my pleasure to ask that the Senator's time has expired, that we extend it for her to finish her presentation.
In favor? Senator Scott Martin.
Thank you very much, Senator Hill. You know, Senator Fitzhenley spoke about corruption. And we all have to acknowledge that there is corruption on both sides. There's always been. Nobody has a monopoly on it. But when you come here and you pretend that your side has only done wonderful things for Jamaica, and that your side has never done an act of corruption. Well, let me start. Senator Hill, you have prompted me to refer to the first act of corruption, which it is alleged took place under the Andrew Holness-led administration in 2016. And you know why that one can't leave my mind? Because crime is something that all of this country is concerned about. When one person dies, all of us feel it. We feel unsafe. We feel unsure, and we are frightened. And the first act of corruption which came to light was the used car police scandal. I mean, seriously? Seriously? Of all the things to choose, you spend the money on used cars for the police. And up to now, today, the used car is not delivered.
9 years after.
After you say that crime is on your priority.
What other country in the world buy used car for them
No, but if you're going to buy the used car, at least get them. At least get them because make a start. But not even that have we got. You talk, and you use my words. I just want to remind you about the campaign when Andrew Holness was challenged for leadership and the scurrilous accusations which were made against him. And I want to remind you in particular that Minister Delroy Chuck, who now twists himself in a pretzel over the Integrity Commission to the point where people are saying, is everything okay with Minister Chuck?
Oh, so what?
Was one of those who said that Andrew should resign.
Yes.
Because after the court ruling, he said he was not fit to lead the Jamaica Labour Party. What can go so? So we have come such full circle in the protection of the leader. The leader has not been certified. From all accounts, there are matters which are concerning and it cannot be certified. And none of you find a problem with that? It's not one of us, is not just a senator, is not just a parliamentarian, is a person who sets the moral compass for the entire country. And on top of it, he goes to the court to ask the court to declare a bill which was passed by this government of Jamaica in 2017, piloted by Minister Delroy Chuck, who now criticizes every clause as though he has never read it. The Prime Minister goes to the court to ask the court to declare it unconstitutional. It is amazing that the double standards are so glaring to the public that they see that parliamentarians will do everything to protect themselves. And if the law don't suit them, then just simply go to court or change it. The people deserve more. The people deserve better. And that is why they have asked for impeachment provisions, because they want a say. But, Mr. President, I have been asking some persons a question. Small business owners, large business owners. And I've asked them, if you hire a CEO to run your business, and you watch your business declining, you're losing money, there is no growth in your country, in your business, I'm sorry. No growth. Everything is just leaking out. All the projections which were there, nothing has been achieved. And you find out that your CEO on the job is operating 28 bank accounts, passing $473 million through these accounts, and is doing a doctorate. Is doing a doctorate on the job. What would you do with that person? Everybody, regardless of which side they supported, because I didn't put it as a political question, them say you'd have to fire him. Yeah. You would have to fire any such person, because it would be clear, I borrow the president's word, it would be pellucid that your CEO is not paying any attention to your business. And I say to the people of this country, Andrew Holness is not paying attention to your business. So what we're seeing is a country which is heading towards recession. We are seeing a country, Minister Hill, where I remember, export. That was your mantra. Exports are down. What are the numbers now? So all of the things all of the things, you can address it. All of the things, all of the indicators which we are looking at do show that the CEO is too busy doing other things to take care of the country. And he should be fired. He should be fired. I believe, listen, you all need to spend some time with some other people apart from yourselves. Because you actually live in a bubble. You actually live in a bubble. When you go all over the country, you're just talking to each other. And the infection, it don't matter if somebody has been there long or them just come. Somehow the infection spreads very rapidly. You understand? And you lose touch with what the people are feeling. Jamaica deserves to be great. Jamaica can be great. I quote former Prime Minister Golding when he says, and you know as soon as I said that the quote got out of my head, but he says there's too much. Let me paraphrase him. Because what he was saying is that there's so much about us which is so great for us not to realize our full potential. And we are great people. We have one of the greatest thinkers in the world acknowledged with Marcus Mosiah Garvey. We have the fastest man in the world, the fastest woman in the world, the most famous musician in the world, all coming from this country. We have started an entire religion. There is nothing which we cannot achieve. All we need is the leaders who will inspire us to achieve it. It's not too late for us to work our way through having a referendum that replaces the monarch as head of our country. Kavod, you know you tend to read the prayer a lot, and you have a very stentorial voice. And every time I hear you reach the part where you're praying for the king, I kind of wince. Because there are so many you could have prayed for the president. And we should have King Charles, after he leaves as a monarch, sending us orders from a foreign court. And we should at least have a court where lawyers and appellants don't have to get a visa to go. Just a simple respect. Respect is due. Mr. President, I thank you.
Thank you.
Preparation. First class. So get think on their feet.
Mr. President?
I have no issue. You should really have spoken before, but if you wish to contribute this morning and before now, as in December, January.
Mr. President.
Senator Brown, I'm going to give you an opportunity to talk for another hour after too.
I am.
Senator Fraser-Vance.
Thank you, Mr. President. And my colleagues know that I had absolutely no plans of speaking. However, my understanding is that a particular agreement that was reached has since been amended. And thereby, I am now speaking thanks to Akbar, Senator Fitzhenley. And unlike my friend Fitzhenley, I shall be short, not 1 hour, maybe 30 minutes. And I want to start off. Thank you, Kavon. I want to start off by first giving my own appreciation and thanks to former Prime Minister Portia Simpson Miller, because it was because of Prime Minister Simpson Miller why I was asked to join the Senate and have been serving since 2014. Subsequent to Prime Minister Simpson Miller, I was reappointed by former party leader, MP Peter Phillips. And throughout my time in the Senate, I have sought to be the voice of issues, I believe, of national concern, particularly in the area of land. And in the last 6 or so years, I have taken on the charge of environment and climate. It is always very difficult serving in public life, and particularly so as a female. And I thank my colleagues on both sides for the support that they have given me. Let me say this, that people see us in the Senate and they hear us back and forth, and they think, boy, they can't even live together in peace. But I want to say, Mr. President, that behind the cameras, what exists are friends. And I can say that I do have friends on both sides. Not you, Mr. Fitzhenley. But I do have friends on both sides. All right, you're my friend. You know you're my friend. But I really want to thank my colleagues on both sides for their support. I want to thank the parliamentary staff. Ms. Curtis, who is no longer here, has been a tremendous help when she served, and I continue to thank her. And you, Mr. President, there are times when I just need to look at you and I smile. Yes, yes, and he knows why. But Mr. President, your leadership, more often than not, has been fair and balanced. And everybody knows. Everybody knows that for me, the thing that matters most, the thing that matters more than anything else, is my family. My dear Jeff, and my 2 boys, Jonathan and Nathan, and Senator Scott Motley and Hill. I am so sorry, but there will not be a Sarah. Certainly not for me. But at the end of the day, I do give my thanks and appreciation to all who have stood with me during this sojourn. And as we reflect on the state of the nation, I shall make some brief comments in the area of climate change and the environment and ecological heritage. And before I get into my presentation, I want to say again that I want to thank Minister Samudo for his reach across the aisle approach to the environment. Not every minister operates as Minister Samudo. And one of the things I like is the fact that he recognized that the environment is so important to everybody that it cannot be politicized. We have consulted on almost every policy issue. He has sought my input, and for that I am grateful, because I believe that when it comes on to the environment, like other areas, when you have consensus, it is only for the better of Jamaica. And so, Mr. President, we all know that climate change affects us in every way. We live in a tropical country, and I long for the day, Senator Scott Motley, when we have reform that I don't have to wear a jacket to Senate. but I can wear a sleeveless, especially because I have nice arms, but I can wear sleeveless. But the heat wave that we experienced last summer, the hurricanes that we experienced towards the end of 2024, and the ongoing rainfall, landslide, all are part and parcel of the effects of climate change. And make no joke, Mr. President, everybody is affected by climate change. There are certain things that affect certain groups, certain religions, certain gender. But climate change affects everybody. And it is because of that why I think that a national conversation, an ongoing national conversation is required about climate change and how, as a developing country, as a coastal country, as a small island developing state, we are going to respond. The UNEP Adaptation Report of 2023 tells us that developing nations need between $215 billion and $387 billion to contend with the fallout of climate change. We spoke earlier about the rising sea levels. And for small island developing states like Jamaica, this is particularly important and of great concern. The result of these climatic changes that I spoke about earlier is seen inland, and it is seen in our coastal communities. Sea level rise poses a big threat to coastal communities and infrastructure right across the length and breadth of Jamaica. We see the potholes. And apart from the fact that some of them are the result of bad workmanship, what cannot be discounted is that the changes in our climate has compounded bad workmanship. And as we consider climate change, we now have to ensure that our very development, how we build our infrastructure, puts climate change at the center. So the very material that we use now have to be climate resilient. One of the things that we have to start looking at as we contemplate climate change and the environment is a growing rise in what is called climate refugee. Jamaica is blessed because to date we haven't had many complaints about persons who are climate refugee. But throughout the world, we are seeing a rising number of persons who are having to leave their homes and their countries because of climate change. Mr. President, sir, this is something that we have to look at, because climate change has created what we call a multi-hazard environment. And this multi-hazard environment, we see, allowed Jamaica, or caused Jamaica to spend over $10 billion in the 2021 flooding, and in 2022 Tropical Storm Ian, $889 million, and over $409 million in Tropical Storm Ian was spent. In fact, Mr. President, it is projected that flooding alone is likely to cost the country over $136 million annually. And that, I must add, is a conservative projection. So what it means, therefore, is that we simply can't continue, Senator Gale, to do the same thing the same way. Within this multi-hazard environment, we have to change the way in which we do things. We have to look at how we treat with issues such as flooding to stem that tide. We therefore need stronger and more enforcement of our planning rules. So we have the Building Act, Senator Fitzhenley, which I continue to say is a modern piece of legislation, but the supporting regulations are not there. But coupled with that, we have to ensure that our human resources, the staff, are properly trained so that they understand what they are required to do, so that they know what they're looking for when they go out there to do their assessment based on the Building Act, that they know what they're looking for. And also that we properly enumerate them so that they are incentivized to get the work done. We also need to look at our drainage system, because the truth is that we have not done a good job of cleaning and maintaining our drains. I don't know about you, Mr. President, but I recall last year, just before Hurricane Beryl, watching TVJ News, and you saw the big caterpillars cleaning the drains the day of the hurricane. And it is not a new phenomenon, don't get me wrong. What it means is that as a country, we have not devoted the time, the resources, and the determination to ensure that our drains are maintained, that our gullies are cleaned and maintained. And let me add, we have not educated enough or put in place the sufficient deterrent to stop persons from polluting and littering our drainage. I remember working with the SEC some years ago, and there was a program called Lift Up Jamaica. And part of that program was cleaning of drains and gullies. And there's a particular community that I was working in, and the gully was clean. When I say it was clean, Mr. President, you could not find a pin in the gully. 2 days later, I went back to that same gully, and you would not believe that it was the gully that was clean 2 days before. And it wasn't any act of God, you know. It wasn't any heavy rain or anything. People carry the garbage and dump it in the gully. What it means that we are really a nasty set of people. We really do not care for our environment. We just throw our garbage anywhere. And so what is required is that we need to have public education, we need to have sufficient bins, and we also need to have in place the requisite fines to ensure that people dispose of their garbage. So it's a three-pronged thing. We need to have the public education, we need to have bins in place, but we also have to ensure there's sufficient disincentive for people to dispose of their garbage however they see fit. I can't tell you how many times I'm driving, not just on the highways, but on the streets of Kingston, and people just eat and throw the garbage through the door, through the car window or the truck window. And all of these things contribute to the state of our drainage system. And so, Mr. President, as we have the discussion about climate change, about what it means to be climate resilient, then part of it has to be building back that kind of civic pride where people know you don't just throw your garbage every and anywhere. Mr. President, the other thing that we must look at is that we need a maintenance plan. I don't know if one is in place, and I stand to be corrected, but based on my research, I haven't come across any maintenance plan for drains or gullies. The time has come for us to put in place a maintenance plan for our drains and our gullies. We also have to ensure that there's proper and more effective management of our watershed system. All of these things, Mr. President, points in my mind to the need for greater and more modern planning. In a lot of ways, when we speak about planning, persons readily think about the built environment. But planning is so much more than just our built environment. We have to consider a railway, the type of structures that we're building, as well as the topography of the land. We have to consider the history of the land, the present use of the land, and the future use of the land. We need to consider whether there is sufficient and adequate runoff systems, because all of these will impact on drainage and our ability to manage the effects of climate change. Mr. President, looking at climate change, one of the things that I also want to note is the effect that climate change is having on our women and our children. There is no doubt, and I mentioned earlier, that everyone is impacted by climate change. But studies show that our women are disproportionately affected by climate change. And so what is required is to ensure that we have in place policies and programs that target our women so that they can adapt and mitigate the effects of climate change. But not just our women. And Senator Dixon, you will have an interest in this, because a very recent study by UNICEF shows how climate change is affecting our children, particularly education. And because the study is not specific to Jamaica, I will not go into the details, but it provides a lot of guidance for us. Because in the study, it talks about effects of climate change, drought, heat waves, the heavy rainfall, the roads, all of which impact access. It impacts ability to go to school, and thereby it affects your right to an education. But the other thing that I found interesting in the report was that climate change also comes with it issues such as memory loss for children, mental and physical effects, and their ability to concentrate. And I know that, because when you're finished running up and down with two little boys in the hot sun, there's no way you can focus on anything until like 2 hours later when you're cool. The way in which we build our schools, we have to revisit that. I understand the reason why we built them then, but we can't build schools with schools with concrete on four sides and some little holes where you can barely get any air through. It cannot continue. We have to build our classrooms to adapt to the effects of climate change. Last summer we recorded, when you talk to everybody, the kind of heat that Jamaica had was just never experienced before. And it is projected that it will continue into this year. We can't build classroom knowing that information. We also have to ensure that one of the ways in which we respond to climate change for our children is proper water supply. There's still too many schools which do not have adequate and reliable potable water. And this is something that we have to address, because with climate change, it is just not going away. Then, Mr. President, the prolonging of our schools affects the attendance of our children. And our girls, the study shows, are more of the two gender. The girls are the ones who are more likely to be affected, because it affects their attendance. They stop going to school. They're subject to all types of influences. They drop out of school, teenage pregnancy, and gender-based violence. So, Mr. President, when we talk about climate change, we have to take a national and a holistic approach to climate change, and the policy developed must be developed accordingly. Then, Mr. President, there are two more points I want to raise on the issue of the environment, and it has to do with the destruction of our mangroves and our coastlines. As a country, we're going to have to make a decision about where we build and how we build, because we simply can't continue. We continue to destroy our mangroves in the name of development. And let me say, I know that sometimes part of the planning approval, it is recommended that you plant mangroves in another area, for example, and I did. And I understand the challenge that any government has balancing the environment and development. But one of the questions that we have to ask ourselves as we consider this new era is it worth it? And what is the cost of the destruction of the environment? And until and unless we can answer those questions, Mr. President, I believe that we will continue along the trajectory of development over sustainable development. Mr. President, the last point I want to raise has to do with not the environment. Well, it doesn't have to do with the environment or the environment, but it is something that is very near and dear to my heart. And it has to do with the adoption, because most persons in here know that I am a product of adoption and fostering. And I always say it is because of Elsa May Binns why I am here today. And but for her, see, this is a skinny girl in Brownstown one Saturday morning and said, I am your new mother. I don't know where it would be. But what I recall for the years that I lived with her was the difficulty she faced in formalizing the adoption. And she couldn't wait until I reached 18, you know. She couldn't wait until I reached 18 because then I did a depot, which explains my two names, but that aside. But I had no choice because the adoption process was so complicated that for more than a decade that I lived with her before I reached 18, I could not finalize or formalize it. And so, Mr. President, when Minister Terrelong was the Minister of State, he and I had several discussions. In fact, before Minister Terrelong, I raised a motion in this Senate for us to review the Adoption Act. And when Minister Terrelong became Minister of State, he and I met several times and had very fruitful discussion about the Adoption Act and the need to amend it. After he left, that conversation ended and the progress. And I'm using this opportunity, and I'm so happy here in the chamber, because we really cannot continue with the Adoption Act as is. For more than a decade, I am told that it is being revised. And for more than 3 decades, we have not done anything about it. And I think that it is an injustice to families who want to adopt and to children who want to be adopted. And Minister, I'm using this floor to call for an immediate review. In fact, in the motion I tabled, I called for a joint select committee to be established to review the Adoption Act. And I've been told that, and I think it is time. And not only am I calling for it, Minister, but I am also volunteering my service to assist where I can. Because this is an area where I have a personal interest, because as I said, I am a product of it. The other thing is, we also appreciate that there are some persons, for various reasons, who can't be adopted. And so fostering is an option. Minister, most people foster because they just want to help and they want a child to love. Some of them, I know, and some of them want to love, want to give a home, but can't afford. I know the government makes a provision for some subvention to foster parents, but Minister, it is wholly inadequate. So on behalf of the mother who spoke yesterday with much anguish about the fact that she has 2 foster children and she hardly can make ends meet, but she really loves them and she cannot put them back in the service, I am making an appeal for us to revise. The budget is coming up. It is something we can look at in terms of the provision we make for foster parents. Mr. President, as I take my seat, I want to say that the protection of the environment is everybody's business. And the environment, not limited to the built environment, has to be protected if we want to continue our life. Our very future depends on the environment that we create today and we maintain today. With that said, sir, I thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator Fraser-Binns. Leader, it's almost 1:20. So you could take the 1:20. Minister Hill, Senator Gale, 1 minute. It been 1:20 somewhere in the Caribbean.
Mr. President, given the time is really 1:20
somewhere
on the eastern side of the country. We then I ask that the Senate be allowed to sit beyond 1:30 to complete the business.
Thank you very much, Minister Hill. Those in favor?
Thank you very much.
Against? Senator Gale. Cavan, Senator.
Thank you, President.
Thank you, Senator Gale.
You know, I'm rising to close the State of the Nation that I commenced in last November. And again, sir, I feel honored to bring closure to this important event of our Parliament, an event that we take seriously. And as you would recall, when I opened, I pointed my theme as moving Jamaica forward. And over the course of the deliberations, I've explored some critical issues that I believe would shape the trajectory of our nation and also its people. When I first stood, I spoke about moving Jamaica forward through partnership, a collaboration across all sectors of society to confront our shared challenges. I also emphasized the changing world of work and the future of tourism in Jamaica. And I also called for the occupational safety and health legislation with additional focus on national workplace policy. I spoke, sir, about the precarious employment and for the promotion of decent work for all. And I also spoke about the rights of domestic workers, a group often overlooked, but vital to our social and economic fabric. And, you know, Senator Scott Motley spoke about her own. That does so much for her, for being here. These are teams that set the tone for the debate, and I today commend all members, including the three that were before me today, for their contributions. As part of closing, sir, I feel compelled, however, to address some of the statements made by colleagues during the debate, which in my view warrant a response. And so these comments, while diverse in perspective, reflect passionate engagement of this chamber in advancing Jamaica's interests. And I believe, sir, that some of them deserve careful consideration as we move forward. Mr. President, as we conclude, let us remain steadfast in our collective commitment to the themes that have guided this debate: partnership, equity, and prosperity. And let us remember that moving Jamaica forward, it's going to require not just words, but action, collaboration, and unwavering focus on the well-being of all our people. Mr. President, I first want to reflect on the contributions made by and highlighted by Minister Auburn Hill, who aptly underscored that Jamaica is going for growth, and emphasized the pivotal role of promoting exports as a pathway to prosperity. Mr. Hill's commitment to strengthen our export sector signifies a bold and forward-thinking approach that is crucial for Jamaica's development as a country seeking to elevate its status among the global community. And any vision, sir, any vision that is export-led for growth is not just about increasing revenue, it is about positioning Jamaica to compete on a larger scale. Most important, sir, the commitment to growth through export promotion carries profound implications for Jamaica's workforce. And by expanding industries such as agriculture, manufacturing, and service, alongside the emerging sectors like technology and creative industry, we open new doors for employment opportunities. It means, sir, that more Jamaicans gaining access to quality jobs, more businesses investing in upskilling their workers, and a labor force that is globally competitive. That is the continuous objective of this Jamaica Labour Party administration. Mr. President, the fruits of the focus on economic growth has already been evident in Jamaica's historic achievement of a 3.5% unemployment rate. A reduction that is nothing short of being remarkable. And to put this into context, the milestone represents not just a number, but the lives of thousands of Jamaicans who now have the dignity of work, the ability to provide for their families, and a renewed sense of hope for the future. But I want to, in the cause of this, Mr. President, because reaching these objectives, we must applaud the Jamaican people for their resilience and adaptability in navigating the changing world of work. That is so important. For us to be here, it has been supported by the working class in this country, and I commend the working class. Mr. President, in moving to close the debate, I must take a moment to acknowledge the invaluable contribution of my Senate colleagues, Senator Janice Allen and Senator Charles Sinclair, who joined me in raising critical concerns about the welfare of the tourism workers. And in particular, noteworthy, so both senators are hailing from Montego Bay, and both have decided not to join us today, for whatever those reasons. I know, but I'm talking physically.
Janice is here, and Senator Sinclair had a family issue.
Commitment. But, sir, when they joined in supporting the cause, this rare alignment, considering their always differing perspective views, underscores the gravity and urgency of the issues facing our tourism workers. Senator Allen highlighted the need for fair compensation for these workers, emphasizing the importance of ensuring that they are rewarded justly for the critical role they play in maintaining Jamaica's standing as a top-tier tourism destination. She also brought attention to sometimes overlooked transportation sector, which is essential for the smooth functioning of tourism. Without an efficient, well-supported transportation network, Mr. President, our tourism sector cannot fully thrive. Senator Sinclair, on the other hand, called for the holistic examination of the tourism sector, stressing the need to safeguard the rights of workers, particularly, sir, in light of recent strike actions. He made it clear that no worker should be victimized for exercising a privilege to strike. Yet, sir, we have some troubling reports that at least one hotel has failed to renew contracts for employees who may have participated in these strikes. And as a trade unionist, sir, I must say, Mr. President, that this is an all-time low. Such unsavory actions by any employer do not reflect the excellence we demand from this vital industry. And so that action, there is nothing excellent about that. Victimization of workers for engaging in such actions goes against the very principle of fairness, justice, and decency that should characterize the workplace. Mr. President, I strongly urge the Ministry of Labor to intervene and to ensure that these workers are protected. And Mr. President, in fact, I am sure that in instructing any back-to-work order, a formula for resumption of duties, one agreed on would have been that there should be no victimization. And so when workers under fixed-term contract, especially those for an extended period, there's a reasonable expectation of renewal. So terminating the contracts to punish participation in industrial action is unacceptable and must not go unchallenged. President, both Senator Allen and Senator Sinclair also highlighted the issue of taxes on gratuities paid to hotel workers. The intended removal of these taxes following consultations between Minister Edmund Bartlett, workers and investors represents a significant victory for the tourism workers. This decision means that workers will now receive their gratuity in full, tax-free, and enjoy greater financial security. Alongside, there's also the commitments to improve access to housing, professional development, and retirement security. This will go forward in transforming the lives of tourism workers. These measures are not just a step forward for the workers, but also for the tourism industry. It improves their quality of life of the employees, and it also elevates their ability to deliver exceptional service. However, sir, I don't want or wish for it to stop here. We have to examine other ways to protect these workers. We have to legalize job security. We must ensure that tourism workers or any other workers on fixed-term contracts have a greater protection against arbitrary non-renewal of contracts. And so this would address the current vulnerabilities workers face when contracts are used to deny long-term stability. President, we must also expand workplace wellness programs. Tourism industry, it's a very intensive kind of industry, and we should prioritize workplace wellness policies to safeguard the mental and physical well-being of the workers. We also have to strengthen collective bargaining rights. Workers in the tourism industry must have access to strong representative unions to negotiate on their behalf and to protect their rights. And, we continue to promote the access to training and certification and the improving the transport infrastructure. And I want to use this opportunity to commend Minister Vaz and his ministry's intention to expand the service of JUTC in other parishes. Mr. President, the contributions of both Senator Allen and Senator Sinclair serves as a call to action. And if we truly want to move Jamaica forward, we must champion the rights of those who form the backbone of our economy. That is our workers. And so by improving the conditions of our tourism workers, we improve the very foundation upon which this vital industry rests. So let us continue to stand united in addressing these issues. Mr. President, I wish to respond to the remarks made by Senator Gabriela Morris, who spoke with great passion, and she getting there in sounding almost like a trade unionist. And she spoke passionately about the workers of this nation, and she expressed concern about their dreams being dashed. While I respect your perspective, I must respectfully differ on this point of dashed dreams, because workers will always aspire for better conditions, higher wages, and improved livelihoods, quite rightly so. But I must emphasize that this government has consistently demonstrated its commitment in making the life better for the working class in this country. And through transformative legislations, impacted policies, tax givebacks, and targeted efforts to improve earnings, this government has taken significant strides to fulfill the dreams of Jamaican workers. So these are not just aspirations, these are tangible achievements, and they reflect the core of what we stand for. And this is what the workers hope for: a government that listens, a government that responds, and a government that acts. Senator Morris also touched on an important, significant industry. She called it the new economy, the new kind of worker in this economy. And I believe you were referring to the gig economy. A growing sector, sir, that encompasses people like rideshare drivers, takeaway delivery personnel, freelance workers, digital consultants, and others earning income through a demand for service or goods. This shift, sir, is redefining the traditional employer-employee relationship and presents both opportunities and challenges of our workforce. And what you have done is open up a debate that we need to focus on as a particular emerging industry. And so the workers in the gig economy operate in a unique space. Many of them are classified as independent contractors, which often excludes them from benefits and protections traditionally afforded by full-time employees. And as a result, sir, these employees face job insecurity and inconsistent earnings, lack of benefits, and limited recourse for workplace grievances. And so we have a responsibility to these kinds of workers to advocate for fair standards, to promote collective bargaining, to ensure that these workers are exposed to training. And this can be a group of workers that can form part of a united group or an association of gig workers or a cooperative where they can start owning their livelihoods and promote. And so government can set policies that can promote these kind of gig workers by enacting laws to continuously redefine employment status. Ensure that these workers have social protection. The gig economy, sir, often is determined how the work is assigned and how the workers are paid. think we need to consider that we must push for and ensure to require the transparency and accountability from these platform companies to prevent against unfair practices for these workers. And so one of the things we may want to consider is where we can set and ensure, in the very least, minimum standards and benefits for these workers. Mr. President, the gig economy is not just a trend. It is a new reality of work. Its flexibility and opportunities attract many workers. But without the right policies and protection, it can only lead to vulnerability and inequity. It's a new workforce emerging in a new industry. And before it gets out of hand, we need to put those safeguards and those railings to protect these workers. And so I'm glad you raised it. It's an important discussion. And, you know, I listened to your presentation last week, and I was inspired by it. And I know you are inspiring for some seat elsewhere, but take this from me. That seat in the Senate right there belongs to you. And it will be yours for a very long time. And one day, Senator Morris, you may thank me for it. I want to, President, I want to respond to the leader of opposition business in his presentation last week. And I commend him for raising the issue of productivity during his State of the Nation debate. But I want to express a little disappointment. You started out, you created this promo that you're going to speak on security issues and productivity. But I believe productivity should have been delved in much more. I expected much more. And it is one of those critical issues so significant that we need to pay keen attention on. President, you know, productivity is a critical issue that Jamaica must confront if we are to achieve sustained economic growth and national development. And despite commendable economic strides since 2016, significant barriers persist, preventing Jamaica from unlocking its full productivity potential. Jamaica has the potential to expand its labor force into high-value sectors by leveraging its knowledge economy. This requires, however, to continue to improve our educational outcomes. We also have to bridge that digital divide, strengthening telecommunications network to ensure equitable access to digital infrastructure across rural and urban areas. And we have to enable some more Jamaicans to participate in the digital economy. One of the things I want to, if we're going to promote productivity, is that we have to encourage businesses to allocate higher shares of their budgets towards research and development, fostering innovation and technological adoption. Mr. President, would you believe that in 2024, last year, the Jamaica Productivity Center survey revealed two troubling insights. It said nearly 46% of firm leaders do not perceive their organization as adaptable to technology. Adaptable to technology. The leaders. So the leaders are not convinced that their organization is adaptable to technology. It also suggested that only 29% of workers feel their firms adapt quickly to technological changes. So we are being transformed, are driven by digitalization, but the adaptability is not connecting. And the workers are saying it. So what is it that we have to do if we are going to promote and enhance productivity? We have to continue to promote digital literacy campaigns, train both businesses, leaders, and workers on the benefits of and implementation of technology to enhance productivity. And we may want to incentivize those entities who have advanced in technology. And we also have to utilize public-private partnership with international organizations and technological providers. Mr. President, another critical area is that, while Jamaica seems to be leading in the Caribbean in doing business overall, but the ease of starting business, the accessing to credit, the resolving insolvency and a new insolvency, improvement in the new insolvency legislation is coming. Securing construction permits, some things like those will lag behind. We also have to simplify our regulatory process, modernize systems for business in doing registration, licensing, and compliance with a focus on digitalization of these processes. And I recall Senator Ransford Braham having pains about this, the reform of our procurement process, enhancing transparency and efficiency in public procurement to ensure timely delivery of goods and services. President, we also have some structural challenges that we have to deal with: energy costs, infrastructural development, even our continuous tax reform. Productivity is the cornerstone of economic resilience and social progress. And to achieve our vision, as a country, we must embrace a multifaceted approach that prioritizes education, technological adoption, and regulatory reform. The leader of opposition business also spoke about training in emerging and established industries. He spoke about equipping graduates for industries in decline. And it is important to recognize that workforce training, it has to strike a balance between emerging skills that address the evolving demands of industries and established competencies that ensure economic stability and resilience. The Heart Trust plays a very pivotal role in equipping Jamaicans with skills needed to thrive both new and existing job markets. And I must say, it is my profound view that the Heart Trust is doing a tremendous job in the labor. So the Trust continues to engage with industry stakeholders to ensure its programs align with the labor market demands. In fact, between 2021 and 2024, the proportion of trainees enrolled in labor market-driven programs continues to increase, demonstrating an unwavering commitment to ensure relevance in training offerings. Moreover, approximately 1/3 of certification issued by the Trust over the last 3 financial years have been in emerging skills. Areas such as electric, hybrid vehicle repair technician, cybersecurity essentials, renewable energy and efficiency, network engineering, and also fiber optic cable splicing. President, these programs reflect the technological advancement shaping global and local industries. And the remaining 2/3 of certification were granted in established fields such as construction, welding, agro-processing, and education, areas that continue to remain critical to our national development. President, the ultimate test of training relevance is employee outcomes. And a tracer study of the 2022-2023 cohort conducted in September 2024 recorded an employment rate of 92% among HEART graduates, an improvement over the previous years. Agriculture recorded 96%. Construction recorded 94%. Global digital services recorded 94%. ICT and creative sector, 93%. Furthermore, 76% of graduates gain employment within 6 months of completing training. That, in my mind, is a remarkable success. And so, President, the assertion that the Hard Trust NSTA is training graduates for our dying industries, I think it failed to acknowledge the critical role of foundational skills in sustaining economic development. So while emerging skills are essential, established industries such as construction, agriculture, and education continues to be a pillar of national stability and economic resilience. And so, sir, the trust remains dynamic, responsive, and future-focused in preparing Jamaicans for jobs today and opportunities tomorrow. The approach is data-driven and aligned with global competitiveness. And I trust that this will bring a different perspective of the trust than which may have been conveyed last week. President, you know, my very good friend, Senator Lambert Brown.
That requires some special time. Senator Bunting, the Speaker's time has expired.
It requires some water too.
The Speaker's time having been expired, and so far proving itself very constructive and worthwhile. Certainly an improvement on his predecessor.
The question is that the Speaker be allowed the time to complete his debate. Those in favor? Thank you, Senator Bunting. Go ahead, Senator Gale.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, last week, sure, I tell you, last week, my very good friend and trade union colleague, I believe, embarked in a frontier that I believe he might not have been fully cognizant. You know, concerns regarding the purchase of a neurosurgery drill. And, you know, in this day and age of technology, when you communicate, others can see your communication. And so someone asked Senator Brown if he had received a response to the claim that he would have made in Parliament last week. And Senator Brown communicated in the affirmative, pointing to a report in the Jamaica Observer. Don't knit your brows, man. No. The report came into the Observer. No. You communicated the that you saw a response. Now, don't make up stories. So the Observer report, sir, spoke about a neuro drill, highly specialized piece of medical equipment, essential for neurosurgical procedures, that it was purchased at some 27-odd million. The expenditure for the medical equipment appointed to something more than that. But it spoke, sir, the report spoke about the procurement process of this equipment was strictly adhered to to the government of Jamaica procurement guidelines. Calm down, man. I'm just responding to the record. The neurosurgical drill was sourced from a reputable supplier and meets all international standards for quality and safety. It is important to note that Sierra said in the report, and it was engaged through competitive bidding. The neurological drill procured, sir, for the Bustamante Hospital for Children. It was said that it was a state-of-the-art, high-speed surgical tool designed for neurological surgery and spinal procedures. They said, sir, it was vital for enhancing the precision and efficiency of surgeries at the Bustamante Hospital for Children. Comparing this advanced piece of medical technology to basic models, as alluded by Senator Brown, or older models with limited accessories at significantly lower price, is both unfair and misleading. And it said, sir, the report also said that the acquisition of this neurological drill is a critical investment in improving pediatric healthcare service to critically ill children at the BHC, needing neurological, surgical, and spinal procedures. It said, sir, that the equipment will play a pivotal role in saving lives, ensuring that Bustamante Hospital for Children continues to provide world-class medical care locally. What I would urge Senator Brown in his exploration as a trade unionist to do, in reference to, I don't know about any corruption, neither have you proven any corruption. But what I'm encouraging you to do, you may want to explore if there are other needs of equipment for the workers at Bustamante Hospital to be able to effectively and efficiently carry out their functions.
That drill could have been gotten much cheaper.
And so I leave the practitioners to make that determination. Importantly in my mind, the sourcing of this drill might be so invaluable to save the life of a child. And you know that I don't. Mr. President, I want to respond to something that, briefly around the concern Senator Motley raised in relation to us transitioning to a republic. Amending the Constitution is by no means an easy task. It is going to take extensive deliberation. But, we have to get somewhere. And if it means getting there in a phased fashion, the important thing is that we are taking the steps towards getting there. The matters that have been agreed on, and I'm taking a conciliatory approach, the matters that have been agreed on, it is my recommendation, Mr. President, let us pursue on those matters that have been agreed on. And the other matters that may be political issues in nature, or societal issues in nature, let us take them on later on in phase 2. Mr. President, in closing this State of the Nation debate, it is imperative to underscore the significance of decisive leadership in steering Jamaica towards a prosperous future. You know, Senator Longmore, in her presentation, spoke about decision-making. Decisive leaders are characterized by their integrity, self-awareness, courage, respect, compassion, and resilience. They communicate their vision, clearly show gratitude, and collaborate effectively. Under the stewardship of Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness, the Jamaica Labour Party administration has exemplified such leadership, resulting in notable achievements that have positively impacted this nation. Mr. President, through prudent policies and strategic national investment, Jamaica has realized economic stability, fostering a more sustained economy. We must be commended for that. Let's highlight a few, Mr. President. The substantial reduction in unemployment rate is a result of decisive leadership. Access to skill training enhanced, a result of decisive leadership. Significant increases in the minimum wage, a result of decisive leadership. The demonstration of resilience and recovery, a result of decisive leadership. Increases in the net international reserve, a result of decisive leadership. No administration, sir, no administration could have found $100 billion to increase public sector wages, a result of decisive leadership. Mr. President, the longest expansion of economic growth, a result of decisive leadership. The most tax relief and tax collection we have ever seen in this country, a result of decisive leadership. Mr. President, making Jamaica as a developing country, a shining star in this region, is a result of decisive leadership. And so this administration commitment to inclusive growth and economic reform has transformed Jamaica's economic landscape, leading to significant improvements in fiscal health and international standing. So, sir, I want to say in closing that continuing under this administration ensures that Jamaica remains on a path of sound and decisive leadership, essential for navigating the complexities of the modern world and securing a prosperous future for all Jamaicans. So, Mr. President, when my friend and trade union colleague, Senator Lambert Brown, you know, nobody can get between us, you know. And it's hard to get between us because of his size. Mr. President, last week he sought to introduce an acronym spelled RIGHT. He used it, however, in the wrong way. What I will tell him outright is that the Jamaica Labour Party government is the right government to move Jamaica forward. What I will tell him about right is Dr. the Honorable Andrew Holness is the right decisive leader to continue moving Jamaica forward. And what I will tell him is under this administration, Mr. President, Jamaica is moving in the right direction. And so, Mr. President, That's the right way to use right. And so, Mr. President, that being said, I now conclude the State of the Nation debate. And, Mr. President, I now ask that the motion be moved that was moved on the 25th day of October 2024 with respect to the plans and programs outlined by the Governor General in his speech delivered to both Houses of Parliament on the 15th day of February 2024 be approved. Thank you.
Shut up. Thank you very much, Senator Gale. Members would have heard the question. Those in favor? Against? Minister Hill?
Mr. President, no, we intend to ask, Mr. President, for a recommittal of the item announcements before we close.
Thank you very much. The question you have heard. Those in favor? Mr. Clark?
Also laid on the table of the Senate are the Jamaica Gazette Supplement, Proclamations, Rules and Regulations 171, Volume 148, dated Tuesday, January 28, 2025, number 24, enclosing the Constitution of Jamaica. The Jamaica Gazette Supplement, Proclamations, Rules and Regulations 175, Volume 148, dated Tuesday, January 28, 2025, number 25, enclosing the emergency powers specified areas in the parish of St. Catherine, Regulation 2025, under the Emergency Powers Act.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cohen. Minister?
Mr. President, it's not intended to do...
1 minute then, please. I just wish to point out, members should have noticed the absence of our clerk, Ms. Lowe. She's having a personal difficulty today, but is leaving the island tomorrow along with a delegation from the lower house led by the Speaker to Japan. I must say I was a bit concerned that no member of the Senate was a part of that, that junket. But she leaves, so we wish her bon voyage and a useful trip. In her absence, the Deputy Clerk, Mr. Christopher Cohen, will act. So if you have any... in her absence, Mr. Cohen will act as clerk, so if anybody has any difficulty can contact him. Minister?
Mr. President, it's not contemplated that we'll do any further business today, so I'm asking for that the Senate be adjourned for a date to be fixed.
Thank you very much. Members would have heard. Now stands adjourned to a date to be fixed, and I bet you that Senator Crawford is not online. Senator Crawford? There you go.
We have just had a live broadcast from the Parliament of Jamaica, the sitting of the Senate. The President of the Senate, Thomas Tavares Finson, presided over the sitting of the Senate. Both the People's National Party and the Jamaica Labour Party senators were in. I want to say thank you all very much for joining us. Remember to join me on Monday, February 3rd, 2025. Join me on Monday, February 3rd, 2025 for the Make We Talk Current Affair program. That's Make We Talk Current Affair program. We'll be having some special guests coming on. I won't give the names because I'm trying to confirm with one special guest that I want to have come on so much. But of course, at 8 o'clock, we're going to have special guests coming on. So join us on Monday for the Make We Talk Current Affair program. Until you hear my voice again, may God bless you. May God bless Jamaica. And may God bless all our friends and family and the people of Jamaica. Have a great afternoon, everyone.
When the game gets rough and this life just seems so tough, make we talk, my people, make we talk. town becomes an ugly place, don't let it erase the smile from your face. Make we talk, people, make we talk. Conversation is the key, a guiding light for you and me. Spark a talk and you will see. Conflict solver A to Z. World leaders master the art of self-defense just by talk. So people, make we talk. Hey, we're living in a world that on ourselves we must depend. Make we talk.